Well, I guess I'm gonna do what all the cool kids are doing, and I'm gonna give you my thoughts on the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Typically, I leave the video game movie reviews to other folks, but some of you were interested in hearing my thoughts, and I had a few things I wanted to say that others might not have been talking about as much. I'll start out spoiler-free just to give you my general thoughts on the film, but there are a few things I'll have to go into spoilers for a little later on, but I'll let you know in case you haven't seen the movie yet. And most of the spoilers aren't plot-centric, mainly just Easter egg stuff, but still, you deserve not to get spoiled on that stuff either. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, go do that, then come back to this video. It'll still be here when you're done. Before talking about the movie itself, I just want to say that the lead up to this movie was its own brand of fun. Before we even saw a second of movie footage, people were already doing their own fan interpretations, animations, fan art, anything and everything under the sun. Then when we got our first inkling of trailers and posters, everyone was going on about how Mario had no butt, DK either had no butt or all of the butt, something Princess Peach, people were going on about her like she was Ranger Tabes. But all that internet tomfoolery made me even more excited for this. I even went to go see it on opening night, which is pretty cool. I don't do that often. And like everybody else, I had my doubts going in, you know, a video game movie made by Illumination, the questionable celebrity voices, yada yada yada. But what kind of a man would I be if I didn't go see it, knowing full well some of my favorite characters in all of fiction had starring roles in this? I wouldn't be a very good Donkey Kong fan now, would I? But I'm happy to say I had a pretty good time watching. I wasn't bored or waiting for the movie to end, and it all went by at a nice brisk pace. I actually left the theater saying, man, I kind of would have liked to have seen more. And when it comes to the general meat and depth of the movie, it would have been nice to have gotten something grand and epic, but I knew what I was getting into. It was an Illumination movie about the Super Mario series. Not to say they couldn't have gone the extra mile, but I kept my expectations nice and level. I went in there to see some Mario stuff, and I got it. Mario ate a mushroom and did some platforming. Someone said, your princess is in another castle. I got to hear Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong go, I'm not too mad. Also getting to see DK go to town on Mario. That alone was worth the price of admission for me. Every time Mario got decked in the face, I was like, nice! The animation was beautiful, and the original music was mind-boggling. Those really elevated the movie. They were legit great. They showed this off a little bit in some of the trailers, but the scene where Luigi is in the Forbidden Land and is chased by the dry bones, that was one of my favorite scenes just on the music and the atmosphere. Really good stuff. The voice acting in general was pretty decent. Charlie Day as Luigi was one of my favorites, though what killed me was the fact that he wasn't in the movie a whole lot. I mean, he's still definitely in it, but just not as much compared to the rest of the cast. Jack Black was a good Bowser, Kevin Michael Richardson was a great Kamek. There's a couple of established voice actors in here too, like Cree Summer, Jessica Takiko, Scott Menville, and Eric Bowser. I recognize pretty much all of them, and I think they did really great too with what they had. And then there was Fred Armisen as Cranky Kong, or better known in some circles as God Emperor Cranky. The only thing I know Fred Armisen from personally is Speedy Gonzales in the Looney Tunes show from 2011, but he was good there. I liked him there. I didn't hate his performance as Cranky, but I will say it wasn't as crotchety and cranky as I would have liked. That isn't to say he couldn't have done it, but you know, when it comes to collaborative efforts like this, there's a lot of cogs in the machine. Maybe he wasn't allowed to play around as much as he could have. Princess Peach I thought was okay. She got the job done, but I feel like she could have emoted in some scenes a bit more. And Chris Pratt was just fine as Mario. I only wish there was more Linda Belcher jokes to make out of his performance, but whatever.
Our big adventure begins now! On my face!
And Charles Martinet shows up in here as some various cameo roles. But what's really cool is that the cameo roles he had in here, he voiced them in several other languages too. European Spanish, European French, Latin American Spanish, European Spanish, Catalan, Brazilian Portuguese, Finnish, Italian even. I'm hoping he got rewarded handsomely for his efforts. Lord knows he deserves it. But now let me tell you about someone who wasn't in the movie. So you remember that rumor about Jeannie Elias, who was Princess Toadstool in the Mario Brothers Super Show, allegedly being the voice of the lady in the Mario Brothers plumbing commercial? I checked the credits and her name didn't show up anywhere, so case closed. Now some of you might say she could have gone uncredited, but that begs the question, if she went uncredited, how do we know she was in the movie in the first place? We haven't heard any official word from her or anyone affiliated with her. No tweet of any kind saying, hey, that's my voice in the film and they didn't credit me for it. Somebody just started the rumor for some quick internet clout. And we can't just go off our ears and say, well, it kinda sounds like her. Do you know how many people kind of sound like other people? Do you know how many people are paid to specifically sound like other people? Here's a funny story. Years ago, Shane from Did You Know Gaming sent me a message asking if I was in the game Freedom Planet, and I was like, no? But there was a character in there that apparently sounded like me, and I had 3 more people asking me if I was in that game. I am dead serious. I haven't even played Freedom Planet, so if I'm in it, I need some of them Freedom Planet residuals. Alright, now I'll be delving more into some spoiler territory, so if you don't want to be spoiled on the movie, get out. As I alluded to earlier, one of the big draws for me was all the Donkey Kong content in this movie. I jokingly refer to this as the Donkey Kong movie featuring Mario and friends. But you know what? We actually got quite a bit to chew on, and it was really cool to see on the big screen. So in this movie, Cranky Kong was explicitly said to be DK's father, which, if you know anything about that ordeal, that can of worms is open once again. For as long as Cranky's been around, we've had official sources contradict each other. Some say he's the current DK's grandfather, some say he's his dad, but for the last decade or so, we've stuck with Grandpa. With this movie though, the discussion might be back on the table, and that means we're gonna get people asking, so does that make the current DK Donkey Kong Jr.? Yeah, I'm not too crazy about that. Here we go again. The movie really started to pick up steam for me when they got to the Jungle Kingdom. The whole stadium scene where Donkey Kong is fighting Mario, one of my favorite scenes in the movie, and yeah, Diddy Kong was there. I was overjoyed to see Diddy in the movie, and it took everything I am and ever will be to not squeal like a schoolgirl in the theater when I saw him. Dixie Kong was right beside him, and she showed off so much personality in the little screen time she had, but I was kind of freaking out most over seeing Chunky Kong. I say this all the time, but we haven't seen Chunky in anything outside of DK64. I'm kind of surprised they went with Chunky Kong over his younger brother. You could have had all the DKC Kongs in the stadium. Heck, they chose Chunky over the old meme lord Lanky Kong. Whoever it was who fought for Chunky Kong to be in the stands, I love you. And they cut back to them like 3 times during the SmackDown DK gave Mario, and I was so over the moon just seeing them react to the fight. Like, oh my goodness, look at him! I also noticed Swanky Kong made a quick appearance during the whole cart escort scene, and can we all just appreciate how insane that is? Not only is Cranky Kong gonna be a household name again because of this flick, but to see characters like Swanky and Chunky in a big budget Hollywood movie, these are characters who haven't been in anything else for decades aside from a smash spirit or an unfounded rumor. Yeah, that seems to be a recurring theme here. And I always like to stress, I was either a baby or lived under a rock when these guys were last relevant. But with some curiosity, I sought them out and I became a lifelong fan of them anyways. It's more common than you'd think. I wasn't even a thought when the NES was out, but all the references the movie made to Punch-Out, Kid Icarus, and Ice Climber, they tickled me pink. And the Super Show reference was something I was hoping they'd use since day one. I didn't grow up with the Super Show, but I've known about it since the early days of YouTube, as, you know, they've been a staple of YouTube poop culture, and again, just natural curiosity made me want to learn more about the series. And I'll probably be the only guy out there to constantly shove down your throat the fact that, hey, this show was recorded in Toronto, this show is Canadian somewhat. Did you know the guy who played one of Mario's relatives in the movie? He's worked with the guy who voiced Toad in the Super Show, and he was also the original voice of Tuxedo Mask in Sailor Moon? Yeah, I bet you didn't know that, did ya? But I want to know, who voiced Diddy Kong here? They better speak up before someone else starts speaking for him. Oh, it was actually Andrew Sabiston from the cartoon. He just went uncredited, you know? Yeah, sure it was. If you've been listening to the official soundtrack online, you'll know there was a song that was gonna be used in the movie during the whole escort scene to the Jungle Kingdom, and it went completely unused. It was replaced with a-ha's Take On Me, and you know, when I saw the movie, I didn't mind hearing that song in context, but knowing what it replaced, we got robbed. Man, Brian Tyler, the composer for this movie, he put together this amazing rendition for this scene, incorporating little bits of jungle hijinks and the Donkey Kong main theme, and you guys said, nah? Take On Me? At least we get to hear it somewhere though. Also, Funky Kong should have been in the scene where they were getting their carts ready to ride on Rainbow Road. Funky's the mechanic of the crew. He's in Mario Kart Wii, and he wasn't there? That's a missed opportunity. He either should have been in the garage or the Kong that escorted Mario and Peach. There was a little poster of him inside Cranky's hut, so, you know, he wasn't completely forgotten, but still. And before you ask, yeah, I'm hoping we do get a Donkey Kong movie one of these days. And if we need to have of celebrities, or at least big name, recognizable folks, the first person I was thinking of was Kristen Shaw as Dixie Kong, you know, Mabel from Gravity Falls, Louise and Bob's Burgers. I feel like she would fit.
I'm warming up my instrument!
Though the first person that actually came to mind was Aquafina, just because I think that would sound hilariously off. But I don't know celebrities. Like I said, I know Fred Armisen as Speedy Gonzales. That's the best I got. I also liked the dynamic Mario and DK had, just taking jabs at each other. It kind of reminded me of Popeye and Bluto, which is pretty fitting, given those two were some big inspirations behind Mario and DK. So bottom line, this movie is definitely worth a watch. Yeah, it wasn't the best movie in the world. It might not even be the best video game movie in the world. But you know what this movie had to prove, to me at least? It had to prove it could be a faithful adaptation of the video games in a comprehensible film. I say it did what it set out to do, and it was entertaining. Didn't light my world on fire, but if you asked me if I liked it, I'd say yeah. And if I had to watch it again, I'd be like, yeah, sure, totally. I wasn't bored, I didn't hate it. I really appreciate how the movie didn't start with any opening narration, just got right to the action. It was a good time. If I had to give it a grade, well, for a numerical system, I would probably say, like, it's teetering on a 6.5 or a 7. It's a very solid B-. So those are just some of my thoughts on the Mario movie, but I'm curious. If you saw the movie, what did you think about it? What were some of your favorite moments, or what parts do you think could have been expanded on more? Whatever they are, feel free to share them in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed this little impromptu thoughts video. Consider it a bonus for the Donkey Kong Marathon, which I need to get back to. I got some fun things planned for that one, and if you want to see them early, I would say check out my Patreon page because you might get to see what I'm cooking before anyone else does. Feel free to check out the page and see if it's for you. And with all that said, I'll see you guys next time. Later!